How are y'all doing? How are you? Fantastic. All right, let's do it.
So, how surprised are you to be sitting in this role? You flash back to like November. It's kind of a quick rise to get to this spot. What do you think?
Sure. I think, I don't know, surprised. You feel like every step along the way you prepare for these opportunities, and surprised may not be the exact feeling. It might be grateful, incredibly encouraged and motivated based on, what I've kind of seen over the past month of DQ's belief and building me up, man. From the first day I got here, I have felt a very specific development plan for me, whether it's getting to call plays in practice at different points along the way, whether it's getting to present in front of the team opportunities like that. So, I don't know if surprise is the right word, but incredibly grateful and thankful to be here.
See, you were a coach for 2 years, but you have the playing experience. So how much did playing in the different offenses, just playing quarterback in the NFL, prepare you to be in this spot at this point?
Sure. I think I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of great coaches, every step of the way, whether it was high school, whether it was college, whether it was in the NFL, a lot of the men that I've looked up to in my life have been fantastic coaches, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a connector, whether it's a developer. And so, once I got to the NFL level as a player, that flame was kind of lit for me that I wanted to be the guy, as close as you can to calling a play in the huddle, getting to call the plays into the quarterback is the next closest thing as one of the play callers. So I've always had aspirations for this and really excited to get it going.
I know you've said that you've sort of always wanted to be a coach after your playing days. Was play calling a piece that was always really important to you? And, when did it become a...
Oh, that's a great question. I've just seen the difference it can make. I've seen the difference at different stops in my career of getting to see different styles, different play callers, different innovators, and it's really important, when you're creating a game plan, when you're developing players, putting them in the best position to succeed, that, how important the play calling role is. So kind of like I mentioned for John, like it's as close as you can get to calling the play in the huddle and actually being the guy receiving the snap, and now developing that and helping get our group to the best collective outcome is what really excites me.
Then having, like you said, been with so many coaches, how do you envision your offense, and how much will you take from them as you sort of build this out?
I think every step along the way, I've gotten to learn something. And as we go forward, our staff, our collective staff of 12 or 13 coaches, we get to kind of build it up from the studs around what Jayden and Terry and Laremy and all these guys do really well to, put them in the best position to be successful. And that's what's exciting with our staff, even pulling from all these different experiences, new coaches coming in who have, backed up Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and coaches who have been around Drew Brees and developed young quarterbacks, and being able to pull the collective so that we can all collaborate together and make this the best possible thing is what's really stimulating right now.
Hey, Coach. One thing Dan mentioned was that he anticipates Jayden will be under center a little bit more next year. I wonder why you thought that was important going forward.
Yeah, I think, it opens up, right, the, some different schemes in the run game, some things that I believe in. It opens up different play actions and keepers and getting them on the perimeter in different ways. I think there's a level of communication that happens under center. I think there's different ways to go about things, and it's something that I'm convicted about, that with his skill set, his fundamentals, the things that we absolutely loved about him when he first got here still ring true, and as we grow and develop. I think a lot of teams that you saw even playing deep into the playoffs, it was something that was a foundation of what they did, and I think, that is something that we will like to implement with him and get him in that position.
You've been credited with calling the shot to Crowder to beat the Eagles. in 24, and I just wonder whether it was the obvious film work you did, the study you did, the personnel you knew, understood, time, score, everything that led you to believe that shot can work.
Sure. There's so much that goes into one play of say you get 65 plays in a game, and that was a situation that I had been a part of previously in a different organization, that a play that I had strong conviction about in April of that year, in May, in June. There were different experiences for Jayden along the way that, he didn't read it exactly how we taught it the first time. Then he learned from it the second time. Then it came up a different way in practice that week. And then, the practice execution became the game reality from that week. And he has a really kind of, he's got a gift. When you teach him something the first time, it just absorbs in there. So, I wouldn't say that was just me or any part of that. There's a whole collective group that goes into kind of creating one play that comes up on a Sunday, Thursday, Monday, so.
Coach, you've obviously worked with Jayden since he got here, and you guys have a pretty tight-knit relationship. How would you describe your connection with him that you've built over the last 2 years, and what was his reaction when you got this role?
Yeah, I think, that's one of the best parts for me, is that we have 2 years' worth of relationships already built up. There's already deposits in that bank that, we can pull from. If we're talking about, hey, what does he do well? What are we building now? A lot of those conversations have been had over the last 2 years. So it's not starting exactly from square one. And I think as much as we can, we're going to keep some continuity of the way he's called things. And then, we got to build on it. And I'm really excited to, just continue to challenge him, pull the best out of what he does and help him grow. Because, we all know as he goes, this group will go, and it's really an exciting challenge and opportunity to just get him to his best.
And you'd mentioned taking a lot from all the coaches that you've worked with, and you've already discussed having more under center, some things that are going to deviate from what this offense has been like the past 2 years. Sure. What's the biggest thing that you learned from working with Kliff Kingsbury?
I think it's hard to ignore, how much stress, no-huddle, the tempo element puts on a defense. And Kliff was incredibly gracious to me, just allowing me into his brain of how he thinks, how he sees the game, and what he has seen work. And so the last 2 years were incredibly valuable for me to see how he approached game planning, how he went about, teaching concepts. And he was incredibly gracious. So I'm really thankful I got that experience with him as a player and a coach.
Dave, just being only a couple of years removed from playing yourself, is there an advantage at all, you think, especially when you're coaching a young guy like Jayden, to be so recently removed from the game?
I think a little bit. I think, I've been able to see it through his lens. Definitely not at the, never had the capabilities, the ability that he has. So I think, maybe there's a mutual respect for what it takes to play quarterback in this league. And then I think from now on, it's what we, DJ, Danny, myself, what we do going forward to help grow him. And he'll see quickly the value that we can add to his game and where we can get this thing going in the right direction.
Hey, good afternoon, Coach. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We've gotten a small peek back in your days in Detroit and how you support your wife. I imagine some of that support is at least given back to you as well. Nikki got to ask your brother-in-law about his thoughts on your getting promoted. Jayden has a very tight familial bond as well that we all know about. How important as a quarterback in the NFL, with so much of what you do being publicized and scrutinized and even criticized at times, is it important to have that away from the spotlight support system to lean on?
It's everything, man. When I can walk out of here and go home and I get to be dad and husband to my beautiful wife and dad to my daughter and one on the way, it's it's the why you do things. And Melissa's been the backbone of our family, allowed me to sacrifice so much as a player, and then now coaching, it's no secret what goes into that. And, I wouldn't be able to do it if she wasn't just lifting me up just like the wind beneath my sails. And so I'm incredibly thankful she gets it, having been an athlete, at the highest level. And it's really special, this past weekend, even though the game didn't go the way for the Patriots, it was special for, the way Christian played, and really proud of him as well.
Have you had an opportunity to speak to Coach Brohm since you got promoted? If so, how did that conversation go?
We stayed in contact really over the last couple of years, as he knew I wanted to get into coaching, and so he has always been in my corner, and I learned a ton from Coach Brohm, and he really taught me just cornerstone foundations of what quarterback play really was. But haven't communicated a whole lot since, but I'm sure we will touch base soon.
Coach, congratulations and good afternoon. From everything that you've done already, from your time here to your time playing in the league, etc., now that you've been elevated to this position, what is it about you specifically that's going to positively impact this offense?
I think I'm going to try to bring out the best in everybody. I think whether it's coaches or players, there's going to be standards set with regard to excellence, and holding those guys to it. I think I've been really fortunate, like I mentioned a couple times, to see it done at a really high level and understand that you can't, compromise on the standards of excellence, and our offense will be held to it. Our coaches will be held to it, and it's what I expect from myself. And, it's a really fun opportunity to kind of implement from the ground up what, the Washington Commanders offense can look like in 2026.
David, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Big opportunity for you. I know you've developed a really good rapport and relationship with Jayden over the last couple of years. You've challenged him. I'm curious, specifically Jayden, how's he made you better? Maybe how has he challenged you?
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned it. He's got an uncanny ability to just absorb anything you share with him one time. So the challenge to that is, okay, how can we stack on that the second time? Where can we take his teaching and not assume that, he's already reached his capacity to learn? How can we continue to build and take it from, when he first got here in 2024, the 101 level classes, and now, how do we take him to every time he takes the field Sunday, he's beating people between his ears, and at the highest level, just able to put our offense in the best position possible with his brain. And I think that challenge of giving him new content, new things to learn, new things to understand about playing quarterback in the NFL has been really stimulating for myself, for the other offensive coaches, Brian Johnson, DJ Williams, Danny. When we think about what it can be for him, it's how do we take him to that next level?
You've said the word conviction a couple of times today, having a strong conviction about this, strong conviction about that. But sometimes convictions don't always play out the way you think they'll play out during a game scenario. So being adaptable, being a first-time NFL play caller, how will you kind of navigate those challenges?
I had a wise coach share, it's about strong convictions lightly held. And so I think there's an adaptability that we'll be fluid. We're going to do what our guys do best. There will be staples of what our identity will look like, but, there's going to be some things that are easy for us and hard for defenses. We're going to make the same things look different and different things look the same, and teach in a creative way. And there's things that I think will be really evident when they come to life, on the field.
Congrats on the new gig. Understandably, a lot of talk about Jayden here, but I'm curious, how do you feel about the rest of this offense, specifically your skill position players?
Yeah, for sure. Right now we've got 23 guys under contract on the offense, and I feel really good about it, man. I really do. 6 in the wide receiver room, returning Terry obviously at the top of the group, and it's our opportunity, it's our challenge to get the best out of every single guy in the skill position groups and up front, man. We bring back so many guys who played a ton of snaps on the offensive line, and the continuity there is going to be key, and a group that played really well last year. And so as much as we can, it's about the next 70 days for our coaching staff, evaluating our own players, acquiring new players, to figure out what we do best, and then implementing it so that, 200 days from now when we take the field, 220 days from now when we take the field, that we have put in a ton of work to put our guys in a position, teach what they do really well, to be at their best, week one. So I think we got a long way to go, but I think it's going to be a fun construction process.
And then in the running back room, how do you view Bill? Like, how much growth potential is there, or are you a firm believer in kind of that committee approach we saw with Kliff?
I think as everybody saw, all the flashes that Bill had in his rookie season, I think it's really exciting to think about what he can look like in a second year behind this offensive line. And I think, we've got one running back signed, so there will definitely be acquisitions that take place there. And, it depends exactly kind of how the room looks, but, man, incredibly confident in what Bill can be in this league as a starting running back.
Hey, David, for a quarterback that has played primarily in pistol and shotgun through his college and NFL career, what kind of challenges will going under center kind of provide, and what does that kind of learning curve look like for Jayden?
From like a 30,000-foot level, it's when we teach quarterback play, not to dive too far deep into it, it's simple things of taking a 7-step drop instead of taking a 5-step drop, or taking a 7-step instead of a 3, and so there's a lot, just basic fundamentals that go into that. But even as the course of the last couple weeks of the season went on, he got more experience at it with a little bit of a transition from our offense, with Josh playing at the end of the year, and even on when there were scout team reps to be had, when we were working it, this has been a work in progress all the way through. So it won't be completely new to him. He's got a ton of time with coaches, that he's worked with in California to kind of grow in that area, and we'll hit the ground running on that.
Those last couple of weeks when he was not on IR but practicing but not playing, were you guys getting in work along those lines? Were you starting to kind of work on kind of specific things with him that you kind of thought you could improve on?
I think it starts with any player in that situation. It's growth areas. So that was one area we saw for growth, and so as much as we could, we worked it for his intentional development plan. And I think we saw it even in the 4 weeks at the end there that he wasn't playing. 5 weeks.
Hey, David. Congratulations.
Thank you.
When people discuss this, your limited experience coaching comes up, as you might have heard. But you also played quarterback, unlike a lot of the other offensive coordinators in the league. How do we translate 5 years or so of playing quarterback in the NFL equals to how many years of coaching?
I think it's a fair question. I think, what I can kind of lean on is whenever those conversations have happened between the most important relationship in my eyes, between the quarterback and the play caller that I've seen take place, I've gotten to be in the room for all those conversations. Whether it was Matthew in Detroit, or Jared in Detroit, or Kirk in Minnesota, or Kyler in Arizona for a little bit. It's like you get to be in the room where all those conversations take place, and you hear how the coordinator thinks. You hear, so while you're not maybe calling the play in the huddle as a backup like I was for the majority of my career, you get let in the chess match, of what a play caller is thinking, being on the headset, hearing the play call come in, the dialect, all the little things that go into making a well-oiled machine kind of run.
And obviously, you talk to different people, family, mentors, others about whether to do this. What do they think about this? Ultimately, you have to decide what to do. What was that final conversation like with yourself of like, I don't have to do this now. It's still got a long way to go, or hey, you never know where this opportunity will come up again.
I think when these opportunities come up with the men that we have on this roster, with the coaches that we have on the staff, with Dan Quinn and Adam Peters, you have to go for it. I don't ever want to live a life that is timid, and so we're going to go for it in a big way, and it's really exciting to think about, having this opportunity now where I'm sitting and going forward and just building it with the group that we have.
Hey there. So you've been here for a bit now. You've experienced the high of the high and a bit lower last year. Sure. So what have you learned about this staff and just being here, dealing with the adversity that you all did last year?
Yeah, I think you learn a ton in both seasons, right? You learn, some of that perseverance, isn't always about strength. Like perseverance sometimes about direction, and Dan Quinn has always been a steady presence for us, and he has just pointed us in the right direction, and you see that through and through, whether it was 12-5 or 5-12, so his pouring into me, I have felt from the first day, I have felt that for me, but I've seen it for every single member of our organization, and that's something that you can't overlook when you make decisions that you want to be a part of this, and so that was really special. And then I think on the coaching staff, you learn, in the hard days, that there's a lot of men in this group that we can get in the foxhole together, and we're going to go battle it out, and we're going to treat each other with respect. We're going to communicate at a high level and go and really go after this thing.
And there's there's been all-star games, college all-star games, combine, all the things. So what is kind of like from now on, I guess, to draft, what are some of the important key items on your list of things to do?
Sure. I think right now it's digging into our own roster so that we can evaluate for free agency and the draft coming from the evaluation side, and give our feedback on what's going to fit, within our offense. And then, with the offensive staff, it's building exactly what we want this to look like come September. So that's what the work we're doing daily is. We finished, pretty close to finished staffing. So, now it's kind of constructing exactly what we want the offense to look like with regard to concepts and formations and how we're going to, get after it.
Hi, Coach. Congratulations on this opportunity. You spoke earlier about your development while being here. Where do you feel that you've grown the most being here?
It's a great question. I think, as a player, you come in Wednesday morning and there's a game plan in front of you that the coaches have prepared, and you have input in here or there, but you're a consumer as a player. Now, as a coach on the other side, you're a teacher. And we are creating content for these men to, consume, and we have to creatively teach in a way that will stick into their brain, whether it's through video clips or PDFs or, different ways that we can communicate with them, how we articulate exactly what we want to see come to life. And I think that's been the biggest change for me over the two-year development period. Is I have absolutely loved seeing the teaching side of it, after being a consumer for so long.
And you've seen this offense in and out. What do you feel going into 2026 that they need to grow the most?
I think, we'll have an identity that I think, people will see every week when we take the field, right? We're going to do everything we can to be explosive, take care of the ball, and be creative, and our guys will, you'll see kind of the DQ preaches speed and violence, and we want people to feel that from our offense.
Congratulations, Coach. A lot of talk has been about your relationship with Jayden, but how important is it to build a balanced offensive attack where he doesn't have to be Superman for you guys to be successful?
Very important. I talked about it. He's incredibly accurate. Mobility is a superpower. And as we, continue to use his brain to, our offense's benefit, I think you'll see, as much as anything, you'll see all of these skill guys that we've talked about a little bit get unlocked, and it's going to be really special to see.